was perfectly okay in Attawapiskat because they were trying to divert attention from the fact that they had allowed not one, not two, not three, not four states of emergency in Attawapiskat to create a situation that we saw this past year where the entire community was put at risk. So let's talk about the Attawapiskat state of emergency in 2009 when the sewage systems failed. And we had numerous homes damaged to the point where, once again, people were getting sick. People were actually, they were having to medevac them out. And the department, Indian Affairs, Health Canada, said keep the families in the houses with the raw sewage. We're just going to, Minister Chuck Strahl, he was a great guy for never knowing there was a problem. He just put his ears up and said, I'm just going to ignore these people until they shut up. That was the attitude for a community that was calling for help. So then, you know, when our new minister, whatever, over there, he was shocked. He didn't know that there was a problem in Attawapiskat. Nobody told him. They had been told since 2009 that people were living in tents. Why were they living in tents? They were living in tents because their homes had been destroyed because the sewage backed up. So I look at this Bill S8, a bill that the Anishinaabe Nation is opposing because they had expected that this government was going to work with the communities to put in the resources necessary so that when we have water standards on reserve, that we'll actually have the resources to make sure that the communities can have standards. We have been pushing from the beginning to establish the same standards at the provincial level and the federal level. So that if you have water standards in a municipality in Ontario, you should have the same standards at the federal level in terms of First Nation. We've been asking that for fire protection. That doesn't happen. You know, we had in 2007, Ricardo Wesley and Jamie Goodwin, who burned to death in a makeshift fire cell in Saskatchewan. The federal government and the provincial government funded NAP's police service. They knew that those police officers were working in a situation when there were no fire sprinklers. Well, they couldn't put the fire sprinklers in because it was a shack. No police officer would be expected to work under those conditions in a provincial jurisdiction, but it was okay to do it at the federal level because it didn't cost as much. So 2 young men burnt to death. And if you look at the 80-some recommendations of the jury that came out of the horrific Saskatchewan fire inquest, they said if there had been a basic sprinkler system, those young men might not have died, and the police officers who were seriously injured trying to save them would not have been put at risk. So it's about this system that we have now where there's one set of standards for all the municipalities and the provinces, all the non-native people across Canada. They live at this level, and then the First Nation communities are left down at this level. And the only time they changed what that standard is on this so-called session of accountability. That we're going to hold those communities to account. We're going to blame those communities, like my good friend from Fort McMurray the other day who said to me, well, what about the chiefs who are taking the money down and spending it on gambling? I was like scratching my head. I was thinking, are you talking about Fort Chip? Are you talking about Fort Mackay? Are you talking about the communities that are living down water from the oil sands investments? Communities that are trying to get by? Are we to believe that they're taking their money and gambling in casinos? But this is the kind of talk that this government uses, that they're going to put on these First Nation communities, impoverished communities, a level of accountability without the money. So I'd ask my honourable colleagues on the other side, if they're serious in following through on what Jim Prentice started, working with us at that time, because Jim Prentice was a collaborative kind of guy. Where's the money? Where's the money to ensure that we have these standards? Because until we see the money, this is just another Conservative bill to punish communities and leave them on their own.